Prime Minister Theresa May is resigning after 3 years of failed Brexit deals. The PM has announced she will step down as leader of the Conservative Party on June 7th, but she'll run the country until a replacement can be found. May said goodbye in an emotional speech.
I will shortly leave the job that it has been the honour of my life to hold. The second female Prime Minister, but certainly not the last. I do so with no ill will, but with enormous and enduring gratitude to have had the opportunity to serve the country I love.
Well, May took over in 2016, just after the Brexit vote. Since then, she struggled to come up with a deal that Parliament will support.
Joining us now from London is CBS News correspondent Imtiaz Tyab in front of 10 Downing Street there. Imtiaz, what is happening behind that door?
That's everyone's guess, and everyone here is talking about it. But wow, what a day in British politics. Just a short while ago, Theresa May coming out of that door and delivering that speech, saying, you know what, she can't do this. She's going to quit. And of course, that emotional moment where she really just sort of held those tears back, saying how much she loved this country and how much of an honor it was to be Prime Minister. But again, failed to deliver Brexit. And I think that's really what led us to this day. We have to remember this is a Prime Minister who in 2017 called a general election. She thought that meant it would strengthen her hand so she could deliver Brexit. But the reverse happened. She lost her majority, but still she soldiered on. And we saw vote after vote after vote on Brexit deal after Brexit deal after Brexit deal, all of them shot down by Parliament. And today we were supposed to see a fourth vote on a fourth deal that the Prime Minister had come up with. This would have seen would see Britain stay within a customs union with the European Union. It would also have seen members of Parliament be able to vote on whether or not another referendum should be held. Again, a referendum on whether the UK should stay in the EU or not. And that seemed to be the final straw. She lost the support from her backbenchers and she lost support from her cabinet. And that's when she came out here to say, it's over. I'm not doing this anymore.
Imtiaz, I feel like watching her speech today was sort of watching the end of a slow motion crash almost. You sort of knew from the moment she took on this challenge of Brexit that it probably was not going to end well for her. Just remind us, how she found herself in this position, because as I recall, and I could be incorrect, she was never a pro-Brexit person.
Yeah, she was Remain, quietly Remain. She didn't get out on the stump and sort of say we all need to stay in, but she was firmly in the Remain camp. But when the Prime Minister who called that referendum, David Cameron, walked out that door and said, I quit, we need a new leader as we try to exit our way from the European Union, Theresa May stepped forward and said she would do it. And she famously said, Brexit means Brexit. Well, she hasn't delivered Brexit. And she tried. But, as you rightly say, many people saw this job, saw the role of being Prime Minister, trying to negotiate this deal with the European Union, a way to get out of this union, was a poison chalice. And it's proven to be a poison chalice. We've now seen 2 Prime Ministers resign because of Brexit.
Imtiaz, on the flip side of that, which is she was unable to get this deal, there was that moment where she was clearly emotional, talking about being the second female prime minister in British history, and she said that there would be others that would come after her. I think it's remarkable when we think about what some people might consider one of the great prime ministers, Margaret Thatcher and Theresa May, how she struggled mightily against forces that probably, as you point out, Imtiaz, had less to do with her than with the previous administration. It was stark to see her there, as emotional as she was.
Yeah, and we have to remember, Theresa May is not prone to outbursts of emotion. In fact, here she's called the Maybot, the robot. She's just sort of seen as this very sort of woman who comes out and is very composed, and yet there we saw this very emotional goodbye from this Prime Minister. But she's also seen as somebody, and we have to remember in this speech that she made when she came out, where she called for people to work together, saying that compromise wasn't a dirty word, but she herself isn't known for compromising. In fact, it really really isn't only until the last few months did she start speaking with opposition parties to try to come up with a deal. And so Theresa May is certainly going to be remembered as a prime minister who failed to deliver Brexit. But when you start reading the chapters, or rather start reading the pages of the chapter on Theresa May, you're also going to see that she did not work really hard to try to get that consensus, to try to build a coalition. And that is, I would imagine, is why many people would say she was unable to deliver Brexit, as well as many other issues as well.
Yeah, so you mentioned this poison chalice. It will have to be passed to someone else now who will have to drink heartily from it, because the deadline is October 10th for Brexit. Who will take up this challenge now?
Well, guess what? A lot of people want it, surprisingly or not. But the man at the very top of this list, his name is Boris Johnson. He's pretty well known in Britain, certainly in some parts of the world as well. He was Foreign Secretary for Theresa May. He was also once the Mayor of London. But perhaps most crucially for Boris Johnson is he was one of the biggest campaigners, leaders, cheerleaders, if you will, for Brexit. He strongly supported the Leave campaign and is obviously very widely associated with Brexit. And many believe that he is the man who's going to take this job. And he, of course, is certainly going to be gunning for it. But the ultimate decision will come down to members of Parliament who will vote on two people who they want to push forward. And then it'll go down to the grassroots supporters of the Conservative Party, who will then vote on who they want to be the leader. Once that's narrowed down to one person, that person, he or she, will go to Buckingham Palace to meet with the Queen and will walk out of that meeting as Prime Minister.
Well, Imtiaz, we look forward to finding out how this all unfolds. Thank you so much for bringing us up to speed.